Hey there, everyone. This is Joe Laleune, and I've got something incredible to share with you. If you're looking to supercharge your health, I've discovered a game changer. It's called Magnesium Breakthrough from Bioptimizers. I've personally been using Magnesium Breakthrough and recommending it to everyone, clients, friends, and family. The first day I tried it, I felt a noticeable difference compared to other magnesium supplements that I've used in the past. Now, here's the thing about magnesium. It's not just about taking more of it. There are different types, each crucial for specific functions in your body. Magnesium chelate, citrate, biglycinate, malate, sucrosomial, taurate, and orotate. Magnesium Breakthrough gives you all of these forms in the optimum dose. The benefits are incredible, from promoting heart health and improving stress resilience to enhancing mood, cognitive function, and metabolic health. It even supports exercise performance and helps with better sleep quality. Let's face it, we can all use a boost in at least one of these, right? That's why I'm excited to share with you this exclusive offer. Head to the link in our show notes and use the code 3phase10, that's the number 3, PHASE10, for a fantastic 10% off your order. Don't miss out on this chance to upgrade virtually every function in your body. Try Magnesium Breakthrough today because your health deserves the best. What's up, everyone? My name is Joe Laleune, and welcome to the Three Phase Podcast. Today's guest, Barrie Street, is an 87-year-old fitness enthusiast and teacher who feels 48. Living in North Vancouver, he is passionate about being active and helping others. He has been teaching math for 57 years and was a teacher at my dad's high school when he was there. Barrie has been involved in coaching soccer, field hockey, cross-country running, cricket, and ping pong, and he's traveled to countries from Ethiopia to Costa Rica, teaching and providing aid. If you've ever spent time in Vancouver, you probably know about the grouse grind. Barrie has completed it more than 2,000 times. He started running in his 40s, completed triathalons, and his first Ironman in his 50s. Recently, Barrie gave an excellent TED Talk called Volunteering Can Transform Your Life's Journey, and plans to be the oldest speaker at TEDx to do exercise on the stage when he turns 90. His website is over50andfit.ca. With all that said, let's dive into the episode.
The Three Phase Podcast is starting now.
Okay. We got it going. We're here. Thank you for joining me on the podcast. And how's your day going?
Excellent.
Okay, good.
It really is.
Good. So, Barrie, if you don't mind just giving us a little bit of a background about yourself and kind of where you are currently in Vancouver and your sort of occupation that's been keeping you busy for the last few decades.
Yes, well, I began my sporting career at the age of 10, playing team sports, mainly cricket, soccer, and field hockey. And at 45, I wanted to change, so I started marathon running. And then in my late 40s, I had this craving to do an Ironman. The only problem is I couldn't swim, a stroke. So at the age of 50, almost, I went to the local swimming pool, agonized for the best part of a year in order to be able to swim the 4,000 meters required for the Ironman. And then in my 60s, I continued triathlons until about 60. Then I changed to tennis, kept on running, and had to stop running at 82 when I had 2 new knees. But I've kept up all my other exercising, and I've been doing our local iconic climb in Vancouver, the Grouse Grind. I've done that over 2,000 times. And then I had a car run into me when I was 84, almost 4 years ago. Reversed into me, broke 12 bones, so I'm still recovering from that. But I've been doing everything except the grind. So here I am,
Hmm.
in still in pretty good shape and
Yeah.
certainly in good spirits.
Yeah. So this is definitely something that's been a big part of your life, starting at a very young age. Going back to maybe your youth, you're from the UK, moving to Canada. Um, when you started to get into the sort of later part of your life, when you started swimming and were really inspired to do the Ironman, what do you think was the big driver for that? What was the thing that really got you interested in the Ironman specifically?
Well, the challenge, and one day when I was running, seeing this guy wearing an Hawaiian Ironman t-shirt,
Hmm.
and that was the deciding factor. I said, Barry, you've got to go for this. You've got
Wow.
to get one of those t-shirts. So that's what prompted me to start my triathlon career, or Ironman
Hmm.
career actually, in Penticton,
Right. And
where
you
two I did
mhm.
two Ironmen there, and fortunately qualified in the second one for the World Championships in Hawaii.
Wow. And so you went to Hawaii and competed there for the Worlds?
Yes, yes.
Amazing. And through your life, I was just recently watching your TED Talk, which I think everyone should check out and take a listen to a bit more of the story, like prior to sort of maybe later in your life, where you spend a lot of time going to more remote countries and doing some teaching. Can you tell us a little bit more, maybe about the story from Guatemala and how that inspires you to spend more time
And now
volunteering?
in Guatemala, yes, I was very fortunate to volunteer teach in Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, Jamaica, and Mexico.
Mm.
And of course, there are all kinds of experiences there which will be with me forever.
Hmm.
I was very fortunate.
What were some of the biggest moments in Guatemala that kept you going to new places?
Well, originally, after a couple of years of teaching, I wanted to give my students more experiences of life and,
Mm.
in particular, other educational systems. So I went along to Guatemala. I just chose that randomly, walked into a local school, told the principal that in my faltering Spanish, I
Mhm.
can tell you I was faltering,
Mm.
that I wanted to observe a math class, and
Mm.
immediately he jumped out of his chair and exploded, Dios mío, my math teacher is sick today. He
Mm.
grabbed me by the arm and took me into this classroom, which was crammed with students.
Mm.
And I turned to him and stammered, but where is my chair for observing? He said, you are the teacher.
Mm.
And so I managed to get through the class with my very little knowledge of Spanish,
Mm.
teaching algebra, and the kids were delightful in helping me along. Without them, I couldn't have done it. And that's what inspired me then, start going around the world, teaching and learning about other systems. And I think it enriched my teaching experience. Well, I'm still teaching after 60 years, so
Yeah,
must
wow.
say something for me.
Yeah,
I
it must
still
have
have the passion for teaching
must
math.
have must have lit a big fire for you if you're still doing it 60 years later.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Was that experience in that classroom maybe like such a departure from the way you had been teaching, sort of behind a desk in a chair? Was that a whole new experience for a way to approach teaching for you?
Absolutely. I was in a different environment. I was trying to speak Spanish,
Hmm.
even though I was a beginner. I was
Hmm.
trying to say things like the square root of 8 to the power 4, which was next to impossible.
Hmm.
But there was this rapport from the students. And I think it's a case of kids in other countries being more appreciative of education than we tend to be.
Yeah, it's almost a given for Western sort of cultures to have school, and a lot of these other environments that you were going in, it was more of a maybe a recognized privilege that they had the opportunity to learn.
Yes, yeah, you put that very well, actually.
And then when you started teaching in Vancouver, when was that after you had done some of this teaching abroad, or was that kind of aligned with that?
No, I taught for 2 years only in England. Then I emigrated to Canada in '65.
Mm-hmm.
I was 29 at the time. And after a couple of years teaching in Vancouver, it was then that I decided I wanted to travel to explore and teach abroad.
Right. And while you were teaching at these schools, were you also involved in other like sports coaching and some music and play teaching in different ways, not just with math, but inspiring students in other platforms as well?
Well, we met socially, and because we didn't have time, we were teaching all day, giving them in-service training to make them better teachers. But I remember distinctly in Zimbabwe, I was very up on mental acuity. It was even in Canada, I wanted the students to improve mentally. So I always began the class with some mental questions, but not too involved. Anyway, what I decided to do in Zimbabwe was to introduce what I call mental math bingo. So the students, they're all teachers, by the way. I was teaching teachers. Each had a bingo card I'd made, and I'd ask a question, like I might say, what is 4 divided by a quarter? Something like that. And they would locate the answer on the bingo. And it became so popular that they asked me, could I do it at night? So 3 nights a week, we would get together and we would do bingo maths.
Nice. They're having fun with it too.
Terrific. And the teachers, were just so appreciative wherever I've been.
Yeah. And when you were teaching, were you also coaching some sports as well?
No, they were all teachers, and they had enough on their plates, just assimilating the lessons and doing homework and so on.
Right.
So I couldn't get involved in sports.
With your own journey with your fitness, what do you think has been the thing, sort of decade after decade, that has really kept you engaged in staying fit and moving and, eating well and doing all those things that are really important for longevity? What do you think is the passion behind all of that?
That's a good question. I realized that it's given me so much in life. It's given me a younger outlook in life. And I just have this deep desire, I'm blessed, to work out every day. I mean, and at one stage of my life, it saved my life. 4 years ago when this car hit me, I was on a long walk and it accelerated down a hill on my left out from a house and knocked me out and broke 12 bones. So, and without that fitness, I wouldn't be here today.
Right.
Definitely.
Yes.
It made me appreciate the fitness I had before the accident. I mean, without that, I wouldn't be here for sure.
Yeah, I've heard
really hit me hard.
With injuries
but
and
I
things.
Still have the passion, regardless of the pain in my back every day. I can almost brush that off because I know that I'm a lucky guy.
Yeah.
And I know the benefits of fitness are incalculable.
Mm-hmm. And with an injury like that, or any injury really, it's almost hard to show the contrast of when you are healthy. Like you don't necessarily know how good you have it until it's taken away. And is that
Exactly.
that accident is
That's
maybe.
an excellent observation. Yes, that's precisely what happened to me. I
Mm-hmm.
just took my fitness. I mean, I was in my 80s and I could do anything. I could go out and ride a bike for 100K, run
Mm.
10K, swim 4K. I could do anything. And it
Mm-hmm.
never struck me how blessed I was.
Yeah.
So
Do you,
fitness is the key.
do you think sort of like education, that's maybe something the younger demographics take for advantage in these, in just like education in Western societies, we kind of take advantage that we can, do a lot of healthy things, and a lot of people put off doing consistent exercise and eating well, uh, maybe because they don't know how good they have it, and sort of the opportunity that they could take to better themselves by having maybe some better lifestyle habits and exercise plans in place. Does that seem accurate, that it's maybe more people are taking advantage of that than should?
I, can you ask the question again, please?
Yes.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure exactly what
I was just kind of comparing it to the like education in the West. We kind of take advantage that we have access to education, and I think the similar thing is with health and being able to do most of what we want. But there's obviously opportunities to enrich our health, but not everyone is doing that. Like for you and for myself, we started at a young age and kept going with these practices. And I think I guess what my question is should people start their health journey earlier?
Oh, absolutely. And not only that, Joe, but also continue.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, when we look at the obesity in so many countries, it for me it's heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
That people have just given up exercising and they're content to be sedentary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's one of my passions in my blog,
Mm-hmm.
over 50 and fit.ca. That is certainly what I'm aiming for, to get more people to get up out of the chairs and exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, on my next TED Talk, I've decided when I'm 90 in 2 years' time that I'm going to give a talk on fitness.
Nice. That's
And
great. I think.
actually do exercises on the stage. So
Oh, wow.
it could be the first TED person ever to exercise on the stage.
Wow.
So
Well,
that's I'm aiming for that.
that's amazing. That's amazing. I
That's
think
my
that
2-year goal.
I love that. Is that something that throughout the decades that you've always had? Have you always had goals in place for you to kind of keep working towards?
Yes, and especially I didn't have goals when I was playing team sports, but
Mm-hmm.
I seem to realize that once I got to my 50s that I should have goals
Mm-hmm.
and adhere to them. And it really, you've got to be goal orientated. You have to be.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have short term and long term goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think if we want to keep the concept of longevity, where we're not just doing this for 6 months to get ready for a trip, but we're doing it for 6 decades to just live a better, healthier life, that's where those more long term goals can come into play. And when we compound short term goals, that really gives you this longevity of exercise and health.
Yeah. And speaking of longevity, the growth in the number of seniors 60 and above is just astonishing. And within a decade or so, 25% of the population of Canada will be seniors. And so we're living longer, and we've got to be healthier and fitter. It's even more important now in this era of living longer. So that's a very good point. You talk about longevity.
And there is quite a difference between lifespan and health span. You know, lifespan being just getting to a certain age, and health span is you are a great example of that, is being able to do all the activities and things that you love doing with no sort of delay or hesitation to do them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, there's a big difference between lifespan and health span. There certainly is. And somehow we've got to make people aware, seniors, of this oncoming longevity.
Yeah. I think one thing that is very important, and I feel like personally I have good examples of this in my life, of people who are aging well and sort of with grace and having good health in their later decades. But I think probably for a lot of people, they don't necessarily have someone who they can look up to, or an example of someone who is living really healthy as an octogenarian or into their 90s. And so having someone like you, on a TED Talk stage, doing push-ups or a plank or something along those lines, I think that would be a great way to have others see what the potential of a later life is. And one thing that always bothers me, I think, is when, parents or people sort of the baby boomer era who just chalk things up to getting older. My knee is bugging me, but that's just because I'm getting older. I'm not exercising as much, but that's just because I'm getting older. And sort of they kind of use it as a bit of a scapegoat for not just being healthy and continuing to do the things you want to do. But I think the important thing out of that is having an example. And so, I'm just wanting to give you a kudos and a pat on the back for being a great example for people to look up to, and maybe to make a change, even if they are in their, 50s, 60s, or even 70s, that there's still an opportunity to turn things around. And like you mentioned, like you started swimming at 40 years old.
By almost 50, actually.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, almost 50. And so it's not an age thing, is it, Barrie?
Oh, absolutely not. No, age is no consideration, because we can be fit at every age. And I think the key for a lot of people who don't exercise is finding the motivation to do so, to make changes. And that's the biggest challenge. Once they get the motivation, everything else will follow. So what our task is to encourage them to begin. And it's not easy. It's a huge hurdle for somebody who's not exercising at all to suddenly change the course of their life. And people like you are doing this.
As a teacher, do you think you could see, people who, let's say, are in between their 40s and 60s, are maybe not setting big enough goals, or like creating enough purpose to make notable change? And the example I'm thinking of is, a high school student who their goal is maybe to go to an Ivy League school and follow, mathematics and be a great physicist or something along those lines, versus someone who's just maybe interested in graduating high school. So a much smaller goal versus a very lofty goal. Do you think that is maybe part of the health and lifestyle challenges that maybe keep people from getting into making changes later in their life?
Absolutely. Yes, that's a good point. We don't do enough in education to encourage kids, to motivate them, to even talk about exercise. I
Mm-hmm.
would often in class talk about the Ironman or running or swimming and encourage the kids to do something. And I still get feedback after being retired 30 years from students
Mm-hmm.
thanking me for talking about this.
Yeah.
So definitely
Yeah.
we should be doing more in education,
Mm-hmm. And I'm
not
just
just
thinking,
ramming academics down the throat.
mm-hmm, but having some more application. And I'm just thinking about your goal to take on an Ironman. That's a lofty goal.
I'm always looking for ways to improve my performance in the gym and my performance in sleep. And one thing that I found that really helped me with that was magnesium breakthrough from Bioptimizers. I've been using it and recommending it to everyone, and the results speak for themselves. It's not just about taking more magnesium, it's about getting all the crucial types in one dose. With benefits like promoting heart health and improving stress resilience, it's a game changer. Use the code 3phase10, that's the number 3, PHASE10 for 10% off your order. Don't miss out on this chance to upgrade your health today.
Yes, but I'm blessed somehow with being tenacious and never give up on anything, no matter how big or small the challenge is. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, the TED Talk was the most difficult challenge of my life.
Yeah.
When I was called by TED to talk, they'd read one of my blogs. I
Mm-hmm.
said, sorry, no,
Mm.
I just haven't got the savvy to do something like this. But I thought about it and called back 24 hours later and I said, I'm doing this, I'm going for it.
Nice.
And the month in preparing for this TED Talk was tumultuous, to say the least. It
Yeah.
was a huge challenge. And some part of every day for weeks, I said, no, I can't do it. I had
All
to
right.
keep lifting myself. So,
Mm.
as I said, I'm lucky to have this tenacity.
Mm-hmm. And I think that sounds like it's a bit of a natural, like tenacity comes naturally to you, but was that honed in with the sports that you've done?
Yes, yes, but I can't pinpoint how and when this occurred,
Mm-hmm.
but it must have built up gradually
Yes.
over
Yeah.
time. But I think it's all part of the fitness attitude.
Mm-hmm. I think so too, because when um, you've built up sort of a callus in a sense to exercise or the amount of work you can do, when you go back to do something that you maybe did at the very beginning, it seems quite easy or not much of a challenge. So it's always something that you have to uh, progress over time. But when you look at it just side by side, it doesn't seem like you've moved very far. But in retrospect, going back to your starting point, it is quite a big change. And I think you could probably apply that to most of these goals that you've set and these moments that you've achieved, like doing the TED Talk. Probably the first few days of trying to practice it and get it ready, it felt very challenging and like it would be impossible to do. And as you spent more time developing it, by the time you stepped on the stage, it was very smooth and clear, and you look comfortable on there. And is that a good comparison to fitness?
Oh, absolutely, yes. And by the way, it was more than a few days of challenge. It was several weeks
Mm-hmm.
before I felt comfortable. But now, having done it once, I want to do it again, as I
Yeah.
said, at 90. And I'll be in much better shape, I think, in speaking then.
A few more years to prepare for it too.
Couple of years, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
What would you say to maybe someone who is in their 30s or 40s who needs to make a change right now and they don't necessarily have a motivator or an example to follow? If you could talk to someone directly.
I would talk about the need fitness, particularly as we get beyond 40, 50, 60, that it's absolutely essential. And I encourage them to pick an activity, something that they would enjoy doing. It's not necessarily swimming, biking, and running. It can be anything. It can be pickleball. It can be walking. And walking for me is the number one. Exercise I would recommend, because most people can walk around the block. And yeah, I would really encourage them to see the benefits of fitness and how essential it is to be fitter, and what it can do to your life. It can give you zest, and passion, even in your 70s, 80s, 90s.
And I think the starting point can be anywhere, right? Whether you're going for a walk to your mailbox and back, or you're doing an Ironman, you can start anywhere at any time.
Good point. I mean, it can be walking your dog round the block. It can be parking further away from the shopping mall and getting some extra steps in.
And over time, that will progress.
That's right. And I just thought of the motivation of counting steps. And on my Fitbit, I got a notification from them last week saying that I'd walked from the North Pole to the South Pole. That's 25 million steps in 6 years.
Wow.
So something like that is a great motivator, even for me, to realize what I've done.
Yeah.
What anyone can do if they're motivated.
Do you like using technology tied into your workouts, whether it's, on a treadmill or a Fitbit? Have you incorporated much of that?
Not particularly. No, I'm afraid I'm IT challenged. So it's even making this phone call was difficult for me. So I was just born a few years too early. So
yeah.
But many people, of course, do. They swear by their devices.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
just as an extra motivator.
Even on your phone, you can count your steps.
Having those things in place is maybe just a bit of extra motivation, or a good way to keep track of what you've been doing. Was that something that did you learn a lot about that while you're doing triathlons and Ironman? Because that is, something that's pretty important, is keeping track of your progress.
Yeah, mainly I kept track on paper in a journal.
Yes, yeah.
Definitely, I kept a journal of everything: my heart rate in the morning, what I ate, exactly what my exercises were, how I felt. And of course, a lot of people now can do this on their devices.
Yeah. Did you feel like there was a big benefit to doing that for you?
What, keeping a record in your journal?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely essential. I mean, think of the benefits of going back a week, 2 weeks, going back a year, and seeing what worked for you, what didn't, what made you passionate. Oh, a journal for me is a prerequisite. Some record of everything.
Yeah.
And it's a great motivator. It's great stimulus to see what you've achieved.
I agree with you fully. I encourage a lot of my clients and family members to journal as well, because it's a record of how you felt in the moment, and even being able to, after a workout, write down how the workout felt. Maybe what your weight was doing if you have a weight loss goal, or how many steps you were able to do in a week, or maybe even for sports, how many goals you scored in a season or something along those lines. Because when you're able to look back at those, this is kind of what I was getting at, is like your starting point to where you end up. For a lot of people who have started their journey, they almost forget how far they've come. And so to have a record of that, to be able to look back at, January 1st of 2024 in a couple of years and say like, oh, this workout that I did was really, really hard. And now I'm doing it today, and it's like kind of a warm-up workout for me. So that being able to have that subjective output of information that you can look back on, I agree with you, is a really important tool to use.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, yes. Journalize, journalize, journalize. Look back, look back, look back.
Yeah. And I
Yes.
don't know if that's a skill that a lot of people are talking about necessarily. And I think that kind of goes back to these like really short term goals of like getting ready for a vacation or something like that versus having more long term outlook on things. And I think maybe from your advice today, we could see that, by doing these things over decades, you can really start to build a bit of a story for yourself in your fitness journey.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. The benefit of long-term goals in addition to short-term cannot be overestimated.
Mm-hmm. And so currently the next goal for you is the TED Talk at 90.
Yes, and not only that, but it brings to mind my cognitive fitness.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
in my blogging, I've emphasized that just as much as I emphasize physical fitness.
Yeah.
And this is really essential once you get past 50 or
Mm-hmm.
60. So I do a lot of cognitive things. Like at the
Okay.
moment, when I'm spinning on my bike, as I will this afternoon, I try different cognitive exercises. Like I'll repeat the phonetic alphabet forwards and backwards.
Mm.
And at the moment, one of my fads is memorizing half a pack of cards. So, for instance, I'll ask my friend to choose 26 cards, and over a couple of days, I'll be able to memorize them.
Mm.
And which I look forward to it so much.
That's
And if
so interesting.
anybody's interested in that, if they look up memory palace, as in memory, the word palace as in mansion, you'll find what the ancient Greeks did in memorizing like speeches.
Mm.
And it's just fascinating. We don't have time here to go into that. It's another branch by itself. But
Yeah.
a memory palace for memorizing, like I choose a house, the house I was born in. I know 20, I can memorize 20 rooms and closets from there.
Mm.
So I'll place 2 cards in each, not physically, mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a picture of every card in the pack, all 52 cards. I have a little story for each. Like I'll, without going into detail, as I said, each suit of cards is represented by, for instance, hearts for me represents my family. Diamonds are movie stars. Clubs are sports people. And spades are TV series. So I have a little picture of each card, which I put into this room when I'm memorizing cards. So when I get to 90, I want to be able to do a full pack. At the moment, I can do half a pack. So
wow.
I can't emphasize enough cognitive fitness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's something we generally ignore.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, and I would agree with you completely. And you see that, it's usually one or the other, or unfortunately, sometimes it's both at the same time, but it'll usually be, a cognitive decline or physical decline that, sort of takes someone down into their later years. But the idea of having cognitive practice to go along with physical practice is just the other part of the equation.
Yes, it is part of the equation. Absolutely.
And a few things that I've read with that, like memory games, actually doing mathematical equations, reading, writing, socializing, being in community and remembering names and family members and things of that nature are great ways to keep your cognitive function sharp and fresh. And you're practicing it just like it is a muscle in your body.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's good illusion, that. Yes. At the moment, I'm making a little video on instructing people how to find a cube root of any number up to 1 million.
Wow.
So that they can do this, they can answer this within a few seconds.
That's awesome. And that probably keeps you...
to memorize. First, they have to memorize the cubes of numbers 1 to 9, the digits 1 to 9, and then they can do this and amaze themselves and their friends.
Yeah.
And I love doing things like this.
Barrie, what's your kind of weekly routine looking like these days? I know you got this injury that you're coming back from, but outside of the injury, what does a typical week look like for you for exercise, eating, cognitive practices?
Physically, I go to the gym 3 times.
How much time do you spend there?
About an hour each time.
And are you doing weights or cardio work?
Oh, everything. A mixture of everything.
And are the workouts very challenging?
Sorry?
Do you make the workouts very challenging, or do you feel more energized when you leave?
Yes. Yes, I feel that I've worked out at the end of each session.
Yeah.
And I do my kinesiologist exercises every morning for 20 minutes or so. And I play pickleball and tennis to some extent. And I'll get back to climbing the grind as soon as my body is stronger. And I try and walk 8 to 10,000 steps each day.
Wow. And in Vancouver, so you've got some hills to work with.
In North Vancouver, definitely. Lots of hills.
Yeah.
I love the hills.
How about your food? What do you kind of eat in a day or in the week?
Well, I avoid fast foods, of course, and I think I eat. I got at one stage a dietitian, which really helped. I would really recommend her now with a nutritionalist or dietitian.
Yeah, just to give you some guidance.
Eat reasonably. That's right. We all need guidance. So I think I eat reasonably well.
What is like? Do you have
I do my cognitive practices every day.
You do that every day?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you normally have in a day, like today, like breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner? What does that kind of normally look like?
The same: cereal with yogurt and frozen berries, milk, of course. That's my favorite meal. Lunch. I would have a sandwich and fruits and vegetables. Evening, it could be soup, broth, chicken, fish, and always a salad. Yeah, always a salad every night.
Are there a couple things that you learned from the dietitian that you still they're non-negotiables, you make sure you always have throughout the day?
Yeah, I've cut out meat to a big extent. I was eating corned beef every day, every lunchtime, for instance. So, and from her advice, I've learned to eat more vegetables and fruits for sure.
Yeah.
So it's been a big help having a nutritionist. Just 1 hour.
Yeah.
Money well spent. Yeah.
When did you do that? At what age?
I started that about 5 years ago, so I would be about 82, 83.
Okay. And any other kind of things like, smoking and drinking, were those things that you kind of always avoided because you were doing sports?
Yes, I've never drunk or smoked. And I remember when I was 10 years old, seeing my favorite sportsman, a cricketer, a photograph of him smoking. And even as a young kid, it broke my heart to see this, my icon, smoking. And it's something I've had, it's always pained me, smoking. I'm not trying to sound virtuous in any way, but it's just had that effect on me.
Yeah. A bit of, discouraging to see a high level athlete doing that.
Yes, exactly.
With your eating and exercise and cognitive behavior and cognitive practices, you're sharing a lot of this on your blog. Is that right? That's where people can kind of learn more about what you've been doing into your 80s and 70s and 80s. That's
why I began. Yeah, that's why I began blogging.
Yeah, at over50andfit.ca.
That's right. And the 50 is 50, not the word 50.
That's right. That's right. Is there any other major things that you feel have really helped with aging with good health besides some of the things that we've talked about today? Like could be community or family or stress, anything like that has been like really stood out to you as something that you have brought attention to?
I would say the biggest thing is associating with like-minded people. All my friends are fitness orientated, so that makes a big difference when you're with people who feel the same way as I do. That's definitely a big factor.
Yeah. And it's kind of building in a motivating group that, you can see your other friends are doing similar things and encouraging each other to keep doing it.
That's right. And even sometimes working out with them, you could go swimming with somebody, biking or walking or anything.
Yeah. And do you put a lot of emphasis on the social aspect of aging too? Like, do you find a big benefit around being around other people?
Oh, yes. And it's especially noteworthy to know that there are so many seniors who lack social interaction, not because it's not their fault in any way. And we've got to look out, we've got to try and help them. We who know about this, to get people to be more socially active. And so many people live alone. The statistics are they're hurtful to hear. How many people live alone, have no families and no friends and no motivation, not knowing what to do. And very often I'll see people like, I go to Tim's to write my blog. And I remember one day seeing two seniors talking, and one of them said to the other, "What is the number one silent killer?" And she added, "Loneliness."
Yeah.
And that made a huge impact on me hearing this. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Is that, and then in your TED Talk, you mentioned about volunteering and to this demographic specifically, maybe volunteering some time to be around people who are alone or lonely or just need the social interactions.
I did mention, I did mention spending time with seniors, and Canada's very good at volunteering. Apparently, we give 5 billion hours of volunteering every year, and per capita give more volunteer hours than any other country. So good for Canada.
Yeah. And I think now there's enough.
That demographic needs our help.
Yeah, then there's enough. I mean, not that there needs to be research, but there's enough research to show the benefits of having in-person social interactions.
Yes. Oh, yes. Or even a phone call to a senior, like a weekly phone call, make use to Just a simple phone call.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like there was a big impact from the sort of lockdowns of the early 2020 with COVID and everything like that? Did you see a direct impact from that?
From what I read, there definitely was.
Yeah.
Seniors becoming more isolated. But there again, there was much more availability to reach them online.
Yeah.
And I remember writing about this, what we can do online with a scene to help seniors. But you're right, there was.
Did you feel
affected?
Did you feel a personal impact at all?
No, because I just carried on what I was doing, so it didn't affect me personally.
Well, Barrie, thank you so much for talking to me today. I feel like we got a lot of great information and had an awesome chat about a bit of your story. And my goal with the conversation was to create a little bit of a North Star for people to see that there's a lot of possibility for healthy living as you age, and that your starting point is a bit more irrelevant than we put emphasis on. That age is less of a facet to keep you from being healthy, and maybe just a reminder that you should at least start. And so I wanted to bring you onto my platform and share your story so that anyone who's listening to this can, whether it impacts them directly or they can share it with someone else who wants to make a change, or they need to make a change and they need a bit more of a like a North Star to follow and kind of follow in your footsteps a little bit, but make it their own version of that. So I really wanted to thank you for taking the time today to have this conversation with me and be a part of our 3-phase community.
Oh, Joe, it's been a privilege, really a privilege to share this with you, and to thank you for your time as well, for what you're doing as a younger person to spread the gospel of fitness.
Well, thanks again, and I think we'll have to do another one when you do your exercise on the TED Talk stage and really
Yes.
set a precedence for what's possible in your 90s.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I would look forward to that. Thanks a lot, Joe.
Okay, Barrie. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks everybody for listening to the episode. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and follow the podcast to get notifications when new episodes drop. Each week I send out my routine report through Substack. In this weekly email, I'm sharing what I've been learning, listening to, and reading, as well as keeping you up to date with stuff coming down the pipeline from programs, podcasts, Instagram, and everything else in between. Click the show notes link to subscribe and stay informed. And a quick reminder for you about Bioptimizers discount. The products I've been using from them have been an absolute game changer for me and many others. Remember, you can get 10% off your order by using the code 3phase10. That's the number 3, PHASE10 on any of the products. And until next episode, stay well.